council, the last few councils, there's been one or two of you. So I'd just like to ask you, have you done this budget on your own, or it's one councillor's house?
I think, Margaret, with the greatest respect, you need to be careful about carrying forward comments on social media sites into this chamber.
I haven't done anything like that. Have
Really?
you any evidence?
Yes?
Have you?
Can
I
just,
you
might not appreciate the question. Excuse me, let the man answer. You might not appreciate the question. The question was, have you prepared this budget yourself? That is the only question. I'm sure you can rhetorically answer that in some way or other.
Yeah. The budget has been prepared with consultation with our group. However, because, Clark will say this, because of detailed considerations that needed to be made on final budgets to ensure that the budget balance, I did make those decisions as an individual. Thank you.
And Michelle, you have a question about this, about the amendment?
Yeah, about the festivals. Are you actually proposing that we just, support the same two festivals every year? Is that what you're proposing in your budget then?
The principle that we've set for the budget going forward, that there is an agreed budget for the 2 years, and what we're saying is that that budget, from a contractual point of view, should continue. The principle, I have made this comment before to other people, in that I do believe that we do need to refocus a lot of our festival work, if it is being provided for the business community, that it needs to be led far more by the business community. We will help in that transfer, but the principle was that the large event in September and the one that's the Catch the Wind event, which are both very, very popular on the promenade, we felt that it's reasonable, given the circumstances, that they, at least, we have reduced the funding, you remember that it has gone down for, I think certainly for the September festival, but what we're doing is saying that we want to refocus that, and it needs to be much more business-led rather than applicants coming back on a year-on-year basis. In some cases have been going for, I think, some that were refused, but certainly some that have been going on for nearly a decade. And I think what we've got to do is say we need a new approach with that. But certainly funding can be provided where it is a clear benefit to the majority of people in Morecambe, but more specifically, what we do feel is that we need to alter the focus of provision of festivals into those businesses that get advantage from it, rather than the residents who get advantage or may not go to it, but it goes more to the businesses because they are far more business focused and they will expect results. And I think we think it's a better way of going forward. But yes, this is only a 1 year budget. Thank you.
Okay. Brendan, do you have a question?
Yeah, I suppose it's just a follow-up on that, Roger. So, if I get this right, what you're saying is the majority of the benefit for festivals of our 55k is seen by businesses, okay? If I get that right, are you aware there's 16k ring fence, 10,000 of that goes straight to Wayne Hemingway's business? Are you aware of that? Straight out of Morecambe.
I think you can come and you can say, and you can make observations on that, that's fine. The principle is that the group that produced their budget in great detail. I have to say on some occasions the detail of festival providers have been, certainly I would consider it not very good. I'm refocusing it, and yes, I would expect the vast majority of festivals to provide for helping the business to Morecambe. That's why we're trying to refocus it on that the businesses control and help with that. Again, we have refocused, and you've quite rightly said, we've transferred money from festivals into public protection. That's the promise that we made, that's the promise we hope to fulfil. Thank you.
Can you answer the question, Roger? So it's for businesses, are you aware that of the 16k ring fence, 10k is likely to go straight to Wayne Hemingway, out of the area down to London, into his business? Are you aware of that? That is just a question, nothing else, no preamble, just that question.
As I have not got the information that you seem to have got in front of you, I cannot comment.
You've got a question, Claire? Yeah, okay.
Right, it's a question just about the general tone of your budget. Do you not feel it closes Morecambe off from the world pretty much? I mean, we're cutting all the festivals, we seem obsessed with the personal safety, somewhere that really fundamentally isn't that dangerous. I've lived in a lot of places and Morecambe isn't in the top 10 danger list, and it's a budget obsessed with dog poo really, and not with our view of the outside world and us bringing the outside world into our area. We are not a closed off place, and we've been working hard to make ourselves open to the world, and this has just closed it off. The question is this intentionally closing us off from the world and obsessing us with dog poo?
I think it's a question you need to ask the population of Morecambe, and I think in most cases they would fundamentally disagree with you. One of the principles, again, as regards festivals, what we've said, and this is the fundamental view, and it's one that needs to be taken forward, that those that derive benefit from the festivals are those that need to organise and run it. It is not a town council where councillors can make decisions about that. I do not believe that gives us best bang for the buck. And as regards cutting off Morecambe, what we're trying to do, and I think if you ask even some of your members on your side, they'll tell you about large amount of antisocial behaviour and very unpleasant behaviour. If you're in that area, that is something that you find. Sorry?
I live in the West End, but it's hardly the Bronx. I think you're over the limit.
I think if you live in that area, and I think if you're affected by antisocial behaviour, it is not a matter that you would want to overplay. And I think you need to be very careful with your constituents on overplaying.
There 40 years.
And I've sat through committee meetings where people are telling us about the level of antisocial behaviour. I am pointing out that it's something that the population wants us to deal with, and we're going to deal with it.
Right, thank you for that. If I may, I've got one question which is specifically about the festivals end of things and the model that you're proposing. Are you saying that festivals should only be funded and run by the business community exclusively? Is that what you're basically saying? Away from those two?
As you can see from the budget, we have not done that. But what we're trying to do... Hang on, listen. That's right. What we've specifically said is... Thank you. What we've specifically said is that at the moment the town council derived, if you like, distribution of funds for festivals is not the most economic and effective method of doing it. What we have done is looked at the two most successful festivals and decided to continue funding that. But we have flagged up that what we believe and what we think is the best course of action going forward, specifically for those which Councillor Coatsler represents, brings people into the area, as opposed to community festivals, brings people into the area, are far more effectively dealt with if the predominant influence is by those that derive benefit from it. That they know what is needed, they know the sort of festivals that will produce the best results from them, and they will be able to work with it. The idea is that what we're doing is an interim process, that we're trying to refocus that, and for community festivals that is something that can be considered and can, if the town council decides that they want to involve themselves in that, they can do. But you have many other groups and many other sources of funding that are working to provide those things, and central provision by the town council, by elected members, is not the most efficient way of providing that service.
You can, but we are going to have to move to debate at some point.
So you're basically saying that any festivals need to be provided by community groups or business, and the business of the town council, unlike pretty much any other council in the country, is not to do that. And at the same time, you're saying you don't want money to go out of the area, but as Brendan brought up, one of the festivals you're suggesting keeping sends more money out of the area than any other. You're giving very mixed messages. I'm just not understanding the message you're giving at all.
I think the only point I can say to you is you're deliberately not understanding the question. You will, in debate, make a whole series of observations that I'm sure are very relevant to you, but I would caution you that they may not be relevant to the overall population of the Morecambe area, and I would suggest you exercise caution on that. Thank you.
Excuse me, you do not represent the whole of Morecambe. I also live in Morecambe. I live in Morecambe with my family. What is the implication that you're trying to put there, Roger? I represent part of Morecambe as well. I live in the West End. I'm well aware of the issues, but I think you're raising paranoia levels in this town beyond the level to which they need to be raised. And I think you're cutting down on the pleasure for the people in this town and raising the paranoia levels, and I'm not playing along.
I'm very glad to hear you're not playing along.
Oh, and I turn up to meetings.
Sorry?
And I turn up to meetings.
We'll move in the debate in a minute, because this is going to be the last question, whether we like it or not. Can you answer that? In some fashion, I don't know how you got into it.
The problem is that there was a series of assertions that presume that, I have to say, did not seem to listen to the questions that are put. That community provides community festivals, business provide business festivals, and our funding, we have in the short term cut the funding and concentrated on those festivals that we feel provide best value for money, but have also well, just wait then.
You'll have a chance to debate in a second.
But have decided that it needs a refocus under those circumstances, because unless you have a community, you can't provide for the community. The community needs to work to provide for itself. In that, yeah, which they do, the food banks, a classic example. And I fail to understand how a simple question of redirecting resources and making community festivals provided by the community, and for festivals providing an economic benefit to have a significant input from those who derive benefit from it is not a good idea. I appreciate you don't agree with it, but then I'm sorry, we'll have to disagree. Thank you.
Okay, and with that, all of those questions fielded, thank you very much for doing so. We're now going to move into debate, which means you will be able to sum up at the end, Councillor Dennison. So, this is about contributions now. Right, can I just make an appeal before we move into debate, please? Constitutionally, unlike some other councils, there is no limit on the amount of time you can spend talking. However, in the interests of allowing other colleagues their say, can I suggest that you keep your remarks pointed as we go through the debating end, please? It is 8:45. It's 8:45. There are still a few items to address on the agenda that have to be addressed tonight. There are a couple that don't necessarily have to be done tonight from a time limit point of view. So, I'm going to take a list of people who want to contribute to the debate on the amendment. If that, in the interests of some brevity, I suspect you'll cover the proposals that have already been moved and the amendment simultaneously. I think that's probably sensible, rather than speaking twice tonight. So, I am going to get a piece of paper, if I can. Right, so, and the following are yourself, John. Oh, do we have? Oh, hold on, we've discovered one. Right, allegedly, according to some bit of the standing orders, it's 5 minutes, we've just really discovered it. But please don't take too long. Right, I've got Terry, I've got Claire, I've got Janice, I've got John. Have we got any other people who want to speak in debate? Right, I'll put myself down at the end of that list then, if I may. And with that, can I call on Councillor Terry Metcalfe to speak, although Has Roger's not gone, has he?
No.
Has he? Right.
Oh,
It may be useful for colleagues on that side of the chamber to at least pick up on some of the points that are said before he comes back, because he's going to be responding to those points, so if that's all right. Yeah, I think we're all right at this point. Is he not needed this one? Councillor Metcalfe, over to you.
It comes as no surprise. I'm voting against this for a lot of reasons. One of the, well, two of the main reasons is they managed to kill what little tourism we've got. We cannot run festivals on 3,200, which is all they've left us. And PCSOs, are they going to work after 10 o'clock? I doubt it. So, do we put an advert in the visitor saying, anybody with antisocial behaviour, please don't do it after 10 o'clock because there'll be nobody about?
That was very Thank you very much.
Do you want me to go on?
No. No, not this time. No. Thank you. Claire, could you make your contribution, please?
My contribution follows on from my last question. So we're doing the job of the police, basically, and we're going to spend £48,000 of our budget doing other people's jobs, yet we don't seem to be providing anything for the town, despite the fact we're talking about the town, except the monitoring of dog poo. So what is it left for the town council to do? I mean, we seem to be spending a lot of money on this budget doing precisely nothing, really. We're not providing anything for anybody from elsewhere, God forbid we do, and we're not really providing anything for people from our town. Yes, community festivals do come from the community and they're generated by and for the community, but they also need funding. Sadly, they can't run with a button. My entire background is in community arts, and I can tell you this is the case. And festivals, businesses are going to run festivals for the good of the town? Well, I've yet to see it happen unless they have an extreme amount of self-interest. This budget will kill Morecambe overnight, and I am definitely not voting for it, and I definitely don't want to be any part of it. And I'm really glad there's a recorded vote so I can record I'm voting against it. Thank you.
Janice, could you make your contribution, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Well, I won't be voting for this budget either. I'm just amazed at what they brought forward, and the most amazing one really is the festival budget. I can't believe that. That is what we are known for. Morecambe Town Council is known for festivals. All over this town, you go and ask anybody what they'll be doing on the weekend, and it's something or other to do with a festival. Whether it be vintage, whether it be kite festival, whether it be bear festival, whether it be any of those. Community festivals, more music, all of that is what keeps Morecambe alive, and it's what brings people to our town as well. I know you seem to be obsessed with police and crime. Fair enough, you do have to look after police and crime, but I mean, I certainly don't agree with reintroducing PCSOs. The trouble we had and the debate we had last year at this time to say we weren't doing PCSOs anymore, and you agreed, and then basically the very next year you agreed to bring two back. I can't get over that. The best way of preventing what we've got a problem in this town with is fly tipping, littering, and all the accumulation of rubbish. That's what we need to sort out. That's why we need these mobile devices, and these are the best ways to do it. We have them in the back of the job centre. That's done a brilliant job so far, and we can move them around all over the place where any of you come up and say, actually, I've got a problem in my ward, I need this sorting. And that mobile device will be there. And you can see it. And you can get people, you can do them. And that's the thing that we need to do. You know, it's no use. The police should do their job. That's what they're for. We are not here to do the police job. We are there to look after the community and what they want to see. And what they want to see is clean streets, no mattresses in the back alleys, no rubbish in the back alleys, no old prams in the back alleys, and you're not even looking at that. And you know, it's just aghast at it. I just don't know how long you took. You could have brought it last week, like Councillor Bates said, quite easily. You didn't produce anything last week, and we asked you. We said, "Oh, you've seen ours, but we can't see yours." Now, mistake can we have when we get it 2 minutes before, you know, and we're supposed to look at it? It's just complete and utter rubbish.
Okay, done. Councillor John Bates, can I ask you to make your contribution, please?
Well, Roger, I'm not going to dismiss your budget quite as lightly as everybody else has. I actually think it's quite well thought through. This is a debate on the amendments. Darren pointed out it's very difficult to talk about that without talking about the other one. I actually think your budget is rather better thought through than this one.
I would agree with you then.
Sadly, it contains things that I can't vote for. Loss of the festivals isn't particularly one of them. As a businessman of 30 years standing in this town, I can tell you that festivals contribute very little towards the welfare of businesses. Many of the people in the Business Improvement District Committee will say, Business Improvement District Board will tell you that too. They tend to take people out of businesses. There are exceptions, and it's true that the Vintage Festival is certainly one of them. The Carnival brings a lot of people in and benefits businesses, and that doesn't get any money from the council, so you don't necessarily have to have council money to do it. I accept that festivals can bring people into the town who otherwise wouldn't come. I can certainly accept that. But there are better ways of using that money to market the town and bring even more people in, I think. So I'm not a great supporter of festivals. On the other hand, I am very much opposed to the idea of reintroducing PCS service. It isn't something this council should be doing. We are a parish council. We're not a city council. We're not a county council. We're not a police authority. It isn't something we should do. And I think the work that we are doing with some of that money through the Community Safety Committee is more likely, I think, to be beneficial to us. I appreciate your input, but I think the direction the council has chosen to go is better. I wish this council budget was better worked out than it is. I'm disturbed when I hear, in answer to John's question earlier on, that the £5,000 that we hope to put in, and which we asked to have put in to our budget for next year for community safety purposes in terms of antisocial behaviour, might, if we need it, come out of this £7,000 community fund. That you can't have your cake and eat it, despite what the Brexiteers think. If we take £5,000, which we could do for those resources, then the community fund is left with very little. So I think it's a shame that it wasn't better thought through than it is. I'm going to have to vote for it because I don't believe in abstaining. I'm going to have to make a decision, so I will make a decision in favour of the budget we've set. And I don't think we're really in any danger of overrunning ourselves or anything of that sort. But the final point I want to make, because I don't want to go on for too long, is this. It extends what I said earlier on. This debate, I suspect, is going to be fairly brief because of what people have said so far. But the questions that ran up to it beforehand had all the acrimony that the debate might have had if they hadn't. And I think that's a great shame. However, I also think it's symptomatic of something else. And it relates back to what I said earlier on. Each group, whether it's the Labour group who've largely prepared this budget or whether it's the MPIs who've largely prepared the other budget, each group is trying to do the best they can within the community with a very limited sum of money. That sum of money is only limited because we have restricted our precept for the last 9 years. And if we hadn't done that, we'd have had more money to work with in proper and reasonable ways. The population of the town would hardly have noticed the difference because our precept is such a small part of the overall. And I don't see why, as a parish council, we should tighten our belts when everybody else is not tightening theirs. They're going to put their precepts up because society has to operate. And if there are costs and those costs increase, we have to meet them. And the political consequences of that will be felt on the wider stage at a different time. But we shouldn't be limiting ourselves absurdly for 9 years, 10 years because we're going again next year, and then find But because we can't all do everything we want to do, we have bitter and acrimonious debates between people who really ought to be trying to be on good terms with each other, notwithstanding our political differences.
Thank you, John. I put myself on the list, so I will. But John Swap. John Swap, say it. Right. I'm physically kind of doing that really in my head, so. Right. I'll just speak. And again, I think to recognise that it's difficult to speak about the amendment without the original proposals is absolutely right. I'll start by detailing and then replying to what John's just said. I completely and utterly agree with what you're saying about the precept. The Police and Crime Commissioner's budget is going up. The City Councils will be also precept going up. The County Council, I understand, have proposals to put their precept up by the highest rate in 10 years. And ours is in one of the lowest percentiles in the country. So I think that is a debate that we need to have as a parish across the year when we're formulating the budgets going forward, because otherwise it will be a political football, and otherwise it won't be the use of money to make sure that we don't drop off the end of the cliff financially. So I completely agree with everything that you just said. So turning to the amendment. Okay. I might not give you as much as the benefit of the doubt, but right. One of my colleagues has already made an important point about where some of the money goes to one of the festivals that you're proposing to support. Now, I happen to like that festival, I happen to say. I happen to like Vintage, I think it does a very good job. But the other thing I also know is that the money that they get from the city and the town council enables them to bring in arts funding. The Arts Council are leveraged into that festival because of what we give them. I also know that 51% of the people that turn up to that festival are from somewhere else. So it's good for tourism. But I think we've been here before, haven't we? Do you not remember some years ago when there was a proposal to go down to some couple of key or 3 festivals, commissioned, and hand over the money and destroy everything else? And it comes across to me sometimes that there's kind of a pathological hatred of festivals and festival organisers sometimes. The biggest example of private enterprise putting into a fund and a festival then being organised and being a good festival in this district is the Lancaster Music Festival, which is a wonderful example of that kind of business model. And you know what it's doing in 2018? Having a break. Every festival organiser that you speak to will tell you that the one thing they need is consistency. And I guarantee you that Ben will regret cancelling it this year, because it's been a long slog for him. And we're talking about pulling the rug from under those people who actually appreciate the support we give them. And frankly, it's a good advert for our town, and it's a good advert for this council. I seem to remember us doing a consultation as well after the 2015 election, asking people what they wanted us to prioritise. Some of it was dog poo, for sure. Some of it was toilet provision, opposed by our colleagues here. Some of it was festivals, near the top of the list, which they were going to attempt to try and destroy again. I find it incredulous, by the way, to think that you can transfer a lot of so-called public safety money to PCSOs who have been proven time after time from an operational management point of view to be unresponsive. Phil, our litter enforcement officer, and the ASBO team have a direct line to you as councillors. They have a direct line to the clerk, so that when we identify problems in our community, we can solve them. That's really important, and I'm afraid it is Shangri-La thinking to try and suggest that we can knock on the Police and Crime Commissioner's office or the chief constables and get the PCSOs in this area to do what we want them to do, because there's absolutely no evidence whatsoever from the past that that's possible. So we shouldn't delude ourselves into thinking that this is some compensatory issue. Getting rid of the community newsletter is an interesting one. I suspect if we dealt with that one as a separate item, one of your colleagues would have had to leave the room. But we are getting brilliant value from the people that we've commissioned to do it. We've seen the first draft, it is of very high quality, and it's going to tell our residents what we're doing. Yes, of course, they won't all read it. We've got some new runs of printing firm in the room right now. Not everything's read that gets put through your door. But you know what? If you don't keep doing it, if you don't keep sending it, nobody's going to read anything that you do. We could have said, let's not bother with the notice boards, but we haven't said that, have we? So I'm afraid that is just, it's backward, frankly. So, unsurprisingly, I won't be voting for this. It's a kind of pull up the drawbridge, forget everything else that exists kind of budget. And that, you know, the public consultation asked us to prioritise some of these things. And the realities of our town, because the amendment has mentioned what the priorities for this town are. Well, you know what? We might not be able to do everything we want to do. And some of that is about money, and I absolutely agree with what you said tonight, John. But if you can do something to help, isn't that better than nothing? We have children in this town suffering from rickets in 2017. This is not Mr. McCaul's time, but we have the illnesses of Mr. McCall, and we can do something about it tonight. There are lonely pensioners living in their homes with nowhere to go and no fellowship and no friendship, and we can do something about that too. So we talk about Morecambe because Morecambe is more than one ward or one party or one person or one set of needs. We try and address as many as we can. I'll be voting against the amendment and I'll be voting for the hard work that's been done, by the way, in consultation with other parties in this room to get this budget delivered. It's not perfect, I know it's not, John, but it's a start. And that's why we're moving this budget tonight, because the people of this town deserve that.
Yeah, I'll say well said.
Who's Mr. McCarthy?
Yeah. We'll be handing Dickens books out later on. Right, now then, that's the end of the debate. I understand you're going to ask for a recorded vote, and I presume you'd like a recorded vote on both the amendment and the substantive?
No, the substantive.
Just the substantive?
Just the substantive.
Okay, fine.
Okay, I'm going to...
You have the, sorry, the last voice in this debate is yours. You have the right to reply.
Yeah.
Over to you, Councillor Denison.
Thank you. Fascinating. Well, Janice, thank you. I love all these festivals, specifically Vintage and the Kite Festival. Oh, those are two we're keeping. Oh, no, got that back. Hang on. Right, next one. Let's see. John, I agree with you that we can agree to disagree, and I agree with a lot of the comments that you made. I think the chair's comments quite interesting, quite clearly pointing out that nobody from the other ones realised that how much money from other sources Vintage brought in. And all I would say to you is thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you, Chair. You've really said that we've done the right thing. A lot of the other things that people said, Councillor Colesworth, 44,000, was that related to the PCSOs? Because I'm presuming that you didn't read the budget because it's only 22,000.
No, I was adding up the amount spent. I'm trying to find what I said. I was just adding up the amount spent.
You don't get to...
Okay, no, in that case...
You can make points budget.
Just for clarification, that people were told things, and I just need to make it clear. It's 27,500 for the city, the joint funding with the city at, what's it, 22,000 for that. One of the principles, and you'll know that in the budget, it's been made quite clear, and it's been passed up the police line, that it will be subject to an agreement with the town council as to how the officers are used. Before you shake your head, we've made it quite clear. If that isn't agreed, then the funding doesn't go ahead. Quite simple. Quite simple. Now, we come back to, well, okay, it's a budget. Or it's not a budget. It seems to be full of good intentions, but none have been costed. And I would just say to you, and I'm going to repeat the point that I made, under all the above circumstances, I hope all members realise the consequences of adopting the Labour budget before us tonight. I strongly recommend to all members of whatever persuasion that this budget not be adopted. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you very much. Debate's finished.
Oh,
Right, so, just to clarify, it's a straight vote for the amendment and then you want a recorded vote when we move to the substantive, yes? Thank you very much for clarifying that. In which case, okay, this is for the amendment to the budget, the amendment that has been moved by Councillor Dennison. So, those members in the chamber who are in favour of supporting the amendment, could you please show now? Those against adopting the amendment? And do we have any abstentions, just in the interest of equality? 2, alright.
6 voted for the amendment, 13 against and 2 abstained.
Right, and therefore the amendment falls. So we move to the substantive. Now then, I've constitutionally got to do this. Would anyone like to debate the substantive amendment? The substantive motion, sorry. Given that I think we've pretty much covered everything, haven't we? Yeah? Right. Is it okay that we now move to the vote?
Yes.
Now then, we have a formal request. What's the numbers for? 2. Any old 2 will do that want a recorded vote. We'll do both. Thank you, councillors. Right. Thank you very much. At least it's formal then. That's fine. Okay. I'm now going to hand over to the clerk, who will announce your name, and it's either for, against, or abstain. And this is on the proposals put forward by Councillor Brendan Hughes earlier on this evening. Okay, so over to the clerk.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm going to repeat what the Chair said. I apologise. We're voting on the proposal put forward by Councillor Hughes, which is the budget in the agenda papers from Finance Committee. So I'll call the names out in alphabetical order. If you for Councillor Hughes' proposal, please say for, if you're against, etc. Everybody okay? Okay, Councillor Anderson.
Against.
Councillor Alex Ashworth.
Against.
Councillor June Ashworth.
Against.
Councillor Bates.
For.
Councillor Boyd Power.
Against.
Councillor Cleat.
Against.
Councillor Clifford.
For.
Councillor Clift.
For.
Councillor Cosley. Councillor Roger Dennison.
against.
Councillor Janice Hanson.
For.
Councillor John Hanson.
For.
Councillor Brendan Hughes.
For.
Councillor Liam Hughes.
For.
Councillor Hutton.
For.
Councillor Metcalfe. Councillor Ogden.
Abstain.
Councillor Page.
Abstain.
Councillor Pattison.
For.
Councillor Pillin.
For.
And Councillor Whittaker.
For.
Okay, so 13 people voted for, 6 against and 2 abstained. So therefore the proposal is carried.
Thank you very much. Right, that concludes that part of the meeting. Right, as you can probably see, the hours are not with us right now. Now then, we have items 7, 8, 9 and 10 left on the agenda. I'm going to make a suggestion. It's entirely up to councillors, but I'm going to make a suggestion. The only 2 items on the agenda that remain that are time limited insofar as we have to do them tonight or our voices will not be heard are the community governance review, because the deadline is before the next council meeting, and the Lancashire County Council budget consultation, because that closes before we meet again. Would it be okay for us to defer items 7 and 10 until the next meeting and deal with those then? Is that okay? Jim, is that a question then?
Yeah, I just think that item 10 should be discussed as soon as possible, i.e. tonight. I think it's very important.
They're all important issues, it's just that some are time limited and some aren't, that's all.
Yeah.
John?
It is an important issue, but by deferring it to another meeting, we're not losing anything.
No, we've got consideration.
So we can give it proper
Yeah,
consideration.
okay. Yeah, 'cause I think it might end up being rushed possibly. Yeah. Okay. Is that okay? Can we vote on that? Because it has to be the settled will of the council that we now move to items 8 and 9. Is that okay? Are we all in favour of that? That's clearly carried. Thank you very much, councillors.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Is it your intention to defer those other items to another council meeting or to adjourn this one and reconvene it at a later time?
That's a very good question constitutionally. It's actually up to us whether we hold a reconvening of this meeting, or we just move those items across to the next scheduled meeting.
May I suggest that if we adjourn this meeting and reconvene it, we can do so relatively quickly. We don't have to wait 2 months.
Yeah.
And it needn't necessarily then be a very long meeting. We can get it done, get it over with.
You're getting a lot of nods in the room. At which point, at the end of this, I will not close the meeting, I will merely adjourn. Okay? And then obviously the clerk will schedule the date and we'll be in touch to make sure all councillors know when that is. Okay, fair enough. Right. I'll just make sure I do that properly at the end. Thank you.
Chair, hopefully not between Wednesday and Friday of next week. Just I'm aware.
Sorry, I'm just tempted now to... I'm just tempted to do it Wednesday. Right, okay. Right, let's go for it. We're moving to item 8 on the agenda, which is the community governance review, and I'll hand over to the clerk to talk us through this.
8 or 9, sorry.
I've got to go out on which one are you doing?
8 is
Community governance review, what we're doing first. So,
Should we get through?
nobody declared an interest in community governance review, okay? You'll only get thrown out when you do the Lancashire County Council.
So, Chair, so you're doing that last, the Lancashire County?
Yeah, because that's it.
So I can go after this?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're a bit keen to get out, aren't you?
Carefully, you don't get focused.
Right, let's listen to the clerk, and then we've only got 15 minutes before we're going to start filling this for next week.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Item 8, Community Governance Review. Lancaster City Council have written to us, they're undertaking Community Governance Review. The closing date for this first round of consultation is the 31st of January, in 2 weeks' time. On page 54, it is exactly what they said, written to you as part of the consultation. And I'm going to repeat the words it says. So on the Community Governance Review, they're looking at how all the parishes operate in their district, all 31 of them. And people, not just the council, but the members of the public, are being asked for their views. And they're asking questions on, do we need more parishes in the area? Should we change the names of them? More importantly, should any parish exist or should it not exist? And they're asking if you can also consider your electoral arrangements as part of that. So in other words, how the parish is warded, the number of councillors, etc. So it's open-ended what you want to say back in this review. You don't have to say anything if you don't want to. But I think as a council, given something that members have said to me, you need to consider very carefully your response, particularly the constant theme I keep getting said to me that there's too many wards and some of the wards are too small. So if members do believe that, this is your opportunity to say that in this review. So it's up to yourselves how you want to proceed with that. I do think you need to decide it tonight because
There was contact being this back.
Janice? It's okay.
Is it questions or are we just going to the proposal? Just go to the proposal. Yeah.
You ready?
If you're ready, yeah. Yes, on page 54, I believe that we're talking about the bullet point changes to electoral arrangements of the parish council. We have 11 wards in our town council, 26 members. We have 3 very small wards as we know, and that is Lowlands Road, Loon Drive and Outmoss Lane. The proposal I wish to make is that we merge those 3 into existing wards, so that would change it to 8 wards, but we still retain the same amount of councillors. So the councillors would remain the same, but the wards would be 3 less. And I propose that we move Outmoss Lane into Polton, Lowlands Road into Westgate, and Loon Drive into Torrizon. And by doing that, I think it makes us a fairer representation. People could argue that 26 members is a lot. You could get rid of 3 members, I suppose. We won't do that until after the next election, of course. We won't be calling members now. That would be a bit harsh, wouldn't it? So I think that would be the proposal from the Labour side anyway. So leave it to you to decide what you want to do.
Well, it seems you made a proposal, and I'll ask for a second before we move on with that. Either make up anything. Right, Roger.
Yeah, surprisingly enough,
we
we in general terms agree with the principle of that. However, there are 2 things I think we ought to do. If you notice the way the electoral commission was supposed to make it equal, they made a complete dog's breakfast of this. I think every member agrees about that. I was going to suggest that actually we could, in general, it's around 1,000 members per councillor. Now, I think, to be fair, if you transfer Lowland Road over, which has 642, there is a reasonable case to say, yeah, okay, you put an extra councillor there. But I do have a problem with Loon Drive and Outmoss Lane, because both of the, one's 132 and one's 481, half the size necessary to have a councillor. And I'm going to propose, if Jan's will accept, a friendly amendment that we allow Lowlands Road because it's over 500. So we could argue that yes, you do transfer a councillor, but in specific terms, Loon Drive and Outmoss Lane, the transfer should actually be that we lose those councillors, because what you'll finish up with is if you start adding councillors to the other wards, you'll make the imbalance between representation and voting. You know, we've got a problem with it. If we transfer it in those 2 very small numbers, increase the number of councillors, what you'll do is on those wards, you'll enhance more representation, which perhaps isn't justifiable. And that's, if members are happy, I would propose that, as if Jan's will accept, as a friendly amendment. So we go down from 26 to 24. But,
sorry.
Sorry, it's a friendly amendment, possibly, so...
No, I'm sorry, Roger. I know what you're saying, I understand what you're saying, and I can't accept it as a friendly amendment. The thing is that we started off way back when with 26 members, and I feel that, you know, that's what we should stay with until we've got a real good feel that we shouldn't have that many. I think we should carry on as we are. Sorry, at this stage I don't think we are.
I've got a couple of 3 speakers. Just to formalise it, given that that wasn't accepted as a friendly amendment, can we have a second for your alternative proposal at this stage? Have you got a colleague who wants to second that?
Second go down to 24.
To go down to 24?
Well, I'll second it, but
Okay.
there is something we want to make clear, and that any change will only happen at the next municipal elections. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
Well,
I said.
yeah,
But
that would be
that
the case anyway. That would be the case anyway. Yeah, you wouldn't be out of it straight away.
No, I mean, I wasn't.
Um,
Well, we've got to say it.
No, that's all right. No, just for clarity. Yeah, just for clarity. Nothing would change tomorrow.
So you're second.
Right. So thank you for seconding it. Right.
But it's not really.
We'll kind of do debate and questions simultaneously given the hour of the day. Michelle, you've indicated that you want to speak.
Yeah, I agree with what Janice is saying here. However, I do know that quite a lot of people that are lumped into the Westgate ward at the moment don't like the name Westgate when they're not in Westgate. And I do propose possibly that we change the name from Westgate to Westgate and Lancaster Road or something similar to that. Being Westgate councillor, I know that some of the people don't believe that they are in Westgate. You know what I mean?
They've asked for names as well, haven't they? We're not happy with how things are named, are they?
Well, I'm not happy with Westgate, you're right.
But the person who's proposed our numbers changes has indicated that she's accepting that, so that's fine. That's perfectly reasonable. Claire, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that rather than completely losing a councillor, because if we start losing councillors, we're just going to go down a slippery slope. It just raises the average. Basically, it makes it evens it out a little bit. And I know there's one who's only got 132, but in some of these areas you have actually got development, new developments like in Westgate, for example, down at the football ground. So these are reasons it will even it out a bit more. So I think that's good. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I've got me, and then I've got Jim, and then John. Okay, right. It seems like there's a review every other week on boundaries of one sort or another. I can tell you from experience, having done the last parliamentary review, that most of the numbers are out of date, frankly. So you're constantly playing catch up with the numbers. When this council was originally formed by colleagues who are no longer here, it was...
Hang on.
Oh, well, we never took the credit for it. But I seem to remember each 2 city council ward had 3 parish councillors, and each 3 city council ward had 5 parish councillors. And then the Boundary Commission for Local Government turned up, and actually you're quite right to say, I'm going to agree with you on something, Roger.
Yes.
Made an absolute dog's breakfast of it, and then went, hold on a minute, let's bob a seat down near the school where Jim's been elected.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a small area, but you've still got to do your casework, you've still got to help people. My worry about dropping the number of councillors is every single person in this room volunteered to do this. We're all volunteers, we get nothing to do, we get nothing out of it financially. You put a lot of time into it. Whatever your political persuasion is, you are here because you care about where you're from. That's really important. And going from 26 to 24 might well look like it's good on maths, but I think actually having colleagues in a ward with you, helping you out, is a good thing. I think Jim being a part of another ward with colleagues who could work alongside him and support him is a good thing, even though he's a vastly experienced parish councillor. Same thing with Debbie. So I'll be voting for Janice's proposition and against yours, I'm afraid, because I think while there are people willing to put their name forward to serve their community, we should not tip our nose up to it. And I've now got Jim and I've got John in that order.
Thank you. As the rest of the member for London Drive,
Yes.
I've got to recognise that it's complete nonsense, my voice. I was voted out 12 which claims possibly the smallest number of us in a seat in British
Political history.
political history. Oh yeah.
Don't forget the Rottenberries.
But my question really is about the legality of are we, I don't know the answer to this, that's why I'm asking. Are we legally allowed to make these changes? I thought it was the Boundary Commission.
We're making recommendations. We make recommendations. We're a consultee, so we make recommendations and it goes. Yeah. So, yeah, we don't get to make the decision, we're not that kind of body. So, whatever the settled will in here, of course, just for clarity, this is a review for these local government areas. We've been asked as a council to make a response. Councillors as individuals are more than allowed to make their own individual responses as well. So if you have an alternative view, you should put that forward anyway, frankly. John said, you are the last man.
Yeah, I can be very brief. On a historical note, I can go further back than Councillor Clifford. When the first proposals were mooted for this town council, they originally envisaged having 36 councillors, you may like to know. Yes, it is. As one of the consultees, we thought that was going a bit too far. Having had the benefit of 8 of the 9 years of experience, I do think 36 is the right number. I do think it's a reasonable number. I understand the point that Roger made. But it only really seriously affects Lou Drive, because the inclusion of Outpost Lane into Portland, though it does reduce the ratio, it doesn't reduce it by that much, it's just below 1,000, it's not that much below 1,000. So the only one that's radically and sensibly, really sensibly altered is the Lou Drive, and it would give Jim more work to do, which I'm quite happy about, but it takes some below the point. Assuming I'm re-elected and assuming I even stand. I will step down to the votes.
Okay, let's move to the vote, shall we? Right, so we'll vote on the amendment to your proposal, which was moved by Councillor Denson and seconded by Councillor Ashworth. So let's have a vote on that one. So those in favour of that being put forward as the council's response.
6.
And those against that amendment?
13.
Any abstentions? No. Oh, Jim, right, okay. That amendment therefore falls, so we now vote on the original motion from Councillor Johnson. So those in favour of adopting that as our response to the consultation? Michelle, thank you. That's clearly carried then. That's unanimous, actually. That's unanimous. Thank you very much, colleagues. Right, last thing.
Thank you, Chair.
No. Right. So we've got one county councillor and we've got one employee of the county council that are about to leave the room. So let's let them leave the room before we start making any responses. Yeah. Sorry? Is declared an interest.
Declared an interest in employee.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well done.
And he's left the room and therefore we'll speak to this report and then I'll invite responses from the floor.
County Council written to us, consulting us on their budget for next year, which there's a lot of information to read. I've all the links in the report, which are on the County Council's website, and there's a lot of pages to read. So obviously their budget is proposals is for £64.274 million. The closing date is tomorrow. If you want to say anything, it's up to members if you want to say anything, or not to the County Council about how they should spend their money next year.
Well, it's our money, not theirs.
Are there any responses that members would like to have logged for this to go back to Lancashire County Council in particular?
Well, I've got one here.
Yes, John.
This county council, they're cutting things right left and centre. They're going to put bus fares up, so I've heard. But they've got rid of a chief executive, Joe.
Yeah.
Got rid of her. It cost them a lot of money. Their employees will be temporarily at £1,125 per day. So they'll take it off you and pay these people. That is a fact. That's a fact, trust me.
Right.
And they go pay a woman this, or they go pay all this, and they're closing this, they're closing that, but they can't go pay a woman who's the new chief exec, all that. That's a disgrace.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, sorry. Right. I'm sure that level of dismay will be passed on. Terry, do you have a comment that you'd like passed back to our colleagues at Lancashire County Council, please?
Yeah. And I will make it printable. We're all supposed to be pulling together one Britain. We'll all join and we'll all help each other. And all the officers appear to be doing is lining their own pockets. When you can walk round Preston bus station, you can see people with no shoes on, literally freezing to death on the streets. It's about time some of its salary went into social care to look after the homeless, the helpless, get kids to school safely, improve medical services, make sure there's a bed in the hospital, not a corridor where you can die on it.
Like Wales.
Thank you.
And we all know where that blame lies.
Right.
Because there are no wickets, our MP said so.
Well, I'll try and keep to stuff that actually affects residents in the area then, if I can.
That does.
Well, that does, but I'm going to just do some specifics, if I may, Clark. And they are a few of these, and they're making some fairly swinging cost of services to people with learning difficulties, at the same time as receiving a report from Ofsted which condemns their support for young people. I don't really know this, but they've opened up a number of libraries across the county and a few in the district indeed, but they're just in the process of slashing the budget to buy books and e-books. So you'll have a library, but you won't have any books to read in there. They are removing bus timetables from the bus shelters, so you'll have a bus, but you just don't know when it's coming. Sounds like a top idea. They're also cutting the budget for disability transport. For those of you that are on Now cards, there may be some of our citizens who qualify for Now cards, possibly in the room. If you travel before 9:30, you probably know there's a standing charge for that. So if you go into a hospital appointment or dropping the grandchildren off to school, whatever, you have to pay a charge for that. They are doubling that charge in this budget, which is going to get them not one more bus, not one more piece of service. What else are they doing?
And also, Chair, I think
It costs you more money,
making
Chair.
an initial charge
Yes,
for the Now card.
an initial charge as well.
And I wouldn't be surprised.
Right,
Because I'm
okay.
not, it's not been mentioned.
Shall we challenge that just in case it's on the list?
Can I ask Jim to repeat that so you might? I missed half of it.
I think they may be considering an initial charge to for the people who apply for an Now card.
Right.
But I'm not, until the budget's set, we don't know. But what the chair has already said, yes, that is in the proposal so far.
Thank you for that. There's also, I think you mentioned social care just a moment ago. £45 million worth of cuts to social care. All at the same time, £45 million.
Also at the same time paying ridiculous salaries.
So we'll challenge all of that. I know it's, in the interest of even-handedness, it is difficult for all spheres of local government to get the budget right. It is very, very difficult. But maybe that will change after Operation Sheridan finishes. We can only hope. Right. With that, I will formally adjourn the meeting, so we will reschedule. It won't be between Wednesday and Friday next week, Roger. And we will finish those two items at a future date. Thank you very much for your attendance.